I believe this hearing should be just the beginning of a longer conversation about the inequalities that our courts prop up every day. I want to take this opportunity to uplift the work of some partners who are not present at this hearing, but who combat and bear witness to racial and gender bias in the courts. Those organizations include the Abolitionist Law Center Court Watch Program in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia Bill Fund, Philadelphia Community Bill Fund, Dignity Act Now Collective, No 215 Jail Coalition, Youth Art and Self-Empowerment Project, Youth Sentencing and Reentry Project, and Philadelphia's many participatory defense hubs. As Michael, Cord, Celeste, and other panelists have explained, and as everyone present understands, the criminal legal system at its very core unequally targets poor people, Black and Brown people, and queer and trans bodies. This fact is well documented. What has been lacking, however, is an in-depth view into the role of the courts in maintaining a racial and gender apartheid in the US. Amistad Law Project and the Accountability Table believe that part of the systemic change that must happen to undo the decades of harm done to marginalized communities is to keep close watch on the courts, hold judges accountable, and make sure our people are equipped with the information that they need when they go to the ballot box. To that end, Judge Accountability Table, also known as JAT, we crafted a clear platform that demands the courts examine their role as drivers of mass incarceration. In 2019, we created a judicial candidate questionnaire and hosted a judge candidate forum where we presented the concerns of our community and invited Philadelphia Common Pleas and municipal court candidates to tell us where they stood. I am pleased to announce that we have put together another judicial candidate questionnaire for the 2021 election. You can find responses at judgeaccountabilitytable.org/questionnaires. Additionally, we will be holding a virtual Judge the Judges forum for First Judicial District judge candidates on March 30th and 31st of this year. I want to devote the rest of my remarks to court watching we did in 2020, where we witnessed the inequalities that are the reason for this hearing play out under the added stressor of a global pandemic. Starting in April and throughout the summer, we kept close watch on the courts while our movements demanded that the First Judicial District act quickly to free our people from the jails that were becoming hotbeds of COVID-19. Our court watch volunteers observed over 800 hearings in the courtrooms of 32 judges. Because these hearings happened over a teleconference line or Zoom, it was not always possible to know the race or gender identity of the defendants. However, data gathered from the dockets over this time period confirmed what one might suspect is the racial composition of those defendants. From the emergency hearings we noticed a few alarming patterns. First, the primary indicator of whether a defendant would get relief was not anything about that individual or the judge, but in fact, the ADA in the courtroom. Across the board, we witnessed that when an ADA objected to a motion for whatever reason, the judges usually sided with the prosecutor. Furthermore, we were alarmed to see the use of guilty pleas in exchange for immediate release from jail. If someone is not deemed a danger to the public by the DA's office, we wondered why they couldn't allow individuals to be released pending a trial. We did not witness any judge interrogate this question. This is concerning because we know that the collateral consequences of convictions most heavily burden communities of color. Second, we witnessed that some judges not take seriously the urgency of the crisis, which is the purpose of those emergency hearings. We regularly observe judges denying motions of medically vulnerable people for reasons like previous failure to report for probation or parole. This pandemic has exposed the extreme disparities in healthcare and medical outcomes for particularly Black and Brown people and women. The people most in danger behind the walls were already the ones most at risk out here, and we saw that their lives mattered less to some judges. Third, we witnessed that some people who would have otherwise been eligible for release potentially not be released because there was a question of where they would go. The lack of access to housing, mental health care, or drug treatment in general, much less in a global pandemic, is a tragic indictment on the city of Philadelphia and the Commonwealth. Again, we know that this disproportionately impacts communities of color, poor women, and queer and trans youth. We are failing to take care of those most vulnerable in our communities. Information that I have shared today will be published in a forthcoming 2-part report currently being compiled by the JAT, and it will examine both observations of last summer's Court Watch program and data from the FJD dockets. I would be happy to share that information when it becomes available. I would also like to direct you to the incredible work of Dr. Autumn Redcross and ALC Court Watch, which released their damning report on municipal court in Allegheny County. You can find that report on alccourtwatch.org. Additionally, though it focuses on the behavior of the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, the Fully Bail Funds report on the use of cash bail during the pandemic sheds a lot of light on problematic actions of bail magistrates setting exorbitant bail amounts disproportionately impact Black and Brown folks and mothers in particular. So to close, I want to thank the committees once again for holding what I hope is the first of many hearings on this topic. Racism, sexism, and transphobia in our courtrooms is not only morally reprehensible, COVID-19 has shown us that it is literally deadly. So it is on all of us to dismantle this rotten system and build up something that will keep our communities safe and thriving. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Grant, and thank you to all of our panelists that were on this final panel.